All right guys, so I'm pretty excited for this video today. I've had it in mind for over a month. I have a maintenance video that just went out, but I have another one that I'm in the middle of editing. Have the Beamer invasion stuff I haven't even gone through yet. I have a mod for Nardo in queue, but put all of that on hold to get to this one because I'm endlessly fascinated with this topic, and that is ChatGPT and what it knows about our cars. So a while back, I was doing the spray paint project. If you saw that video, I was trying to look up some stuff on the heat tolerances of certain spray paints, as well as like ambient engine bay temperatures and stuff. Wasn't having too much luck on Google, so I thought I would try asking ChatGPT. So what is ChatGPT? So ChatGPT, or Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, is an AI chatbot designed by OpenAI, and it uses a language model and an absurd amount of data on which it is trained, like hundreds of billions of data sets. And it uses a predictive wording model to basically look at the nature of the question or the request and look at the relationship of the words in that request, and then predict what the next word should be in order to accurately, to the best of its ability, answer that question or fulfill that request. It's not true AI in the sense that it has that it's sentient or has thoughts and feelings, because it doesn't, but it is AI because it's able to take all that data that it's trained on, learn from it, and form relationship models and be able to answer what seems like an endless number of requests or questions or whatever. It's terrifyingly powerful. So here's what's cool about using ChatGPT over a search engine. So when you use a search engine, you might put in, ask it a question or put in some keywords, and you have to parse through like tons of pages of results. With ChatGPT, you can just ask it a question and it will answer it for you. But not only will it answer a question, it'll fulfill requests. So like, you can ask it to write you an essay for X number of paragraphs on the history of World War II. And it will do it. You can ask it to write you a poem. If you're a software engineer, you can give it like a logical problem and ask it to write the code for the solution to that in a given language, and it will spit out nearly perfect code. It can tell you the next best chess move to make in a given game. It can even write you a joke in the style of a certain comedian. It's wild stuff, really insane stuff. But there are some limitations, like it's limited in what it knows after 2021 in terms of like world events. It can't recommend the next best stock pick. It won't give medical advice. It can't answer questions which are intrinsically human, like what is the meaning of life, although technically there are some workarounds to that. But I think the thing that is the most inhibiting to it, the biggest guardrail they've put on the system, is that it can't search the internet. So it doesn't have any access to anything that you would normally search the internet. It just has the data it was trained on. And even with those limitations, it is still an immensely powerful system. Anyway, while I was asking it questions about the spray paint, I sort of wandered off and started talking to it about my F80 M3. And maybe a little naively, I was kind of surprised about how much it knew about the car. Granted, there were some things that it didn't know too, but in the course of time that I've spent with this, I've asked it tons of questions, and so I've sort of compiled like a choreographed conversation that we're gonna have. All right, well with that, let's get into talking to ChatGPT, what it knows about my F80 M3. Telling you guys, this is wild stuff. Okay, so when you first log into ChatGPT, you'll have this dashboard that will give you a couple of examples and then tell you what some of its capabilities and limitations are, and then the input field at the bottom. So I'm gonna start by telling it that I have a 2017 BMW M3 competition. And like I said, because it remembers everything that you tell it within the course of the conversation, we don't have to keep reminding it what kind of car that we have in order to ask a follow-up question. It will just remember. Okay, so I'm gonna tell it what kind of car I have and then ask what some of the performance specs are. So it knows the horsepower is 444 for the competition, which is right. And then it goes on to give a bunch of other performance specs. It's pretty cool. It's worth noting these specs are for the competition model specifically, which offers slightly more powerful engine and other performance enhancements over the standard M3. So now let's ask if it knows the differences, or what are the differences among the base model, competition model, and the CS. All right, so it knows 425 for base, 444 for competition, and 453 for CS. That's awesome. And the CS is the most exclusive and high-performance option with a focus on weight reduction and track-oriented performance. Interesting. So this is great for car research, and it's certainly, I think, a little more convenient than going to a search engine, even though you can find all this stuff, on Google or whatever, but you would have to go to a website, maybe deal with some ads or something like that. But now let's get into maybe some more subjective questions. So let's ask, what makes the F80 a great car? Okay, so powerful engine, precise handling, advanced technology, comfortable interior, and striking design. Boy, oh boy, is that correct. striking and aggressive design that sets it apart from other cars on the road. I love it. Muscular body lines, visually impressive, so on and so forth. But yeah, so these are all things that I would agree. They make the F80 quite a great car. Now, let's ask it, what are the best and worst features? Okay, so for the best features, it kind of reiterates some of the things that we asked it what makes the F80 a great car: high performance, agile handling, advanced technology, comfortable interior. Now for the worst features, firm ride, yeah, sure, expensive, and fuel economy. Now, I don't know anybody who buys an M3 for fuel economy, but I do like that the powerful engine is thirsty. And then usually when you ask it something, it will, if it doesn't give some kind of disclaimer, which it usually does at the bottom, which admittedly is a little annoying, it will sort of summarize everything that it said. So overall, while the M3 is a well-rounded sports sedan with many great features, yada, 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 but then, while the car's firm ride, high cost, and fuel economy may be drawbacks for some buyers, they are relatively minor issues in the context of the car's overall performance and capabilities. I would agree. Let's ask it. What are common stereotypes of BMW drivers? Okay, so there's already an improvement here because I remember asking it this exact question once and it said that it was wrong to stereotype people and that's not something that you should do. However, this time it is all too happy to give me some positive and negative stereotypes. So, positive stereotypes: successful. BMWs are often associated with success. Discerning. BMW drivers are sometimes assumed to be discerning and have a keen eye for quality and performance. Confident. BMW drivers are often seen as confident and assertive. This may be due to the car's powerful performance and sleek design, which can give drivers a sense of confidence on the road. Now, negative stereotypes. Aggressive. True. Arrogant. True. Not for everybody, of course, but it is a accurate stereotype, I would say. And then I like inconsiderate. BMW drivers are sometimes stereotyped as inconsiderate or selfish drivers who prioritize their own needs over the needs of others on the road. I actually see that and I'm kind of reminded of like a couple of years ago, Audi had a commercial where it was like a conscientious Audi driver who like swerved around a puddle to avoid splashing some kids that were on the side of on the curb, like admiring the Audi, whereas behind him comes the BMW driver who just soaks them. So I guess that fits the bill. I like the subjective questions. I'm glad it's playing along now instead of giving moral lessons. So let's kind of leave the realm of the F80 specifically and ask it which M3 is most reliable. Okay, so in terms of reliability, the E46 generation M3 is often considered to be the most reliable. So E46 owners, is that true? I wouldn't know, I've never had an E46. Then it says the F80 M3 is also generally considered to be a reliable car, although it is more complex, and apparently has some issues with engine misfires and fuel pump failures. The most reliable M3 is going to be the one that's well maintained and cared for by its previous owners, so on and so forth. So, all right. Cool. Okay, so there's some stock info, some subjective stuff, which I think it answered pretty well. So let's move on to, actually real quick, before we go on to performance, should I be concerned about the crank hub? But let me go back to specifying the F80. Okay, this is insane. Let me take a minute to talk about the crank hub thing. You can probably hear the excitement is palpable here because I've asked this question before and got a totally different answer. This one is much better. So, okay, the crank hub issue, it's a known issue that affects the S55 engine. It involves the crankshaft hub, which can sometimes fail or become damaged, leading to catastrophic engine failure. So before it told me it was like a plastic part that fails. Obviously, there's no plastic involved in the potential failure of the crank hub. But while not all M3s, F80 M3s or F82s, whatever, S55 engines are affected by this, it did not previously tell me, in addition to saying that it was a plastic part, it didn't previously tell me that there were steps to address the problem. In 2017, BMW introduced a revised crankshaft hub design that is less prone to failure. I have kind of read this. I've read that in 2017 and later that it was less of an issue and less of an issue for manual cars as opposed to DCT, but this was not previously included in ChatGPT's reply. This is a lot better information and a bit more thorough. So again, when it comes to the updates, sometimes they're pretty impressive. Okay, so we've gotten the stock info out of the way. We've gotten some subjective questions. We got an improved answer on the crank hub. So let's ask it some maintenance questions. So what are the torque specifications for the oil drain plug? Again, improved answer. So before, when I asked this question, it told me 35 Newton meters, which we know to be wrong. It's 25 for the oil drain, and I believe 25 or 25 and a half for the oil filter housing. It's actually printed on the cap. But yeah, so this is an improvement also. Now, I don't know if it knows all of the torque specifications for all of this stuff. One time it told me that as an AI language model, usually when it can't tell you something, it'll say, as an AI language model, I can't blah, blah, blah. And one time it told me that it was not able to give torque specifications for whatever thing I asked it, and then it proceeded to give me the torque specifications for something else. So again, there are variances. You can ask it the same kind of question for a different thing and get a different response, but previously, I got the wrong torque specs for the oil drain plug. This one is correct. Now let's ask it, how do you change the oil? Okay, so 9-step process here, and it is pretty spot on. So warm up the engine, lift the car, drain the oil, be sure to have a drain pan ready, remove the oil filter, and I like that it even tells you to oil the rubber gasket on the new filter, and then install that into the engine, tighten the filter by hand, install the new oil drain plug, and again, it gives you the torque specs for that, and then check the oil level. Now, the only thing here is that, the S55 engine does not have a dipstick. You check it via the iDrive system. So that is pretty on point. It's not exact, but at least the order of operations is pretty good. Generally impressive, not 100% accurate, but still, I'm pretty good with that. But since we previously asked about torque specs, let's ask it about the lug nuts, and can it tell us the torque specs for the lug nuts? Okay, so here's where we have a bit of an issue, and actually this value is different than the one it previously gave. So for the lug nut torque specs, I believe them to be 105 foot-pounds, or maybe 104.9, I think might be the super specific one. But here it's saying 88 foot-pounds, which I think is too light. So when it comes to torque specs, again, given that I had previously gotten a wrong answer on the oil drain plug and then got the correct one, but the wrong one for the lug nuts, I would sort of trust but verify when it comes to anything ultra-mechanical like this when using ChatGPT. Now let's talk to it about aftermarket parts. So what are some good aftermarket intake options? Again, it still knows that we're talking about the 2017 BMW M3. And aftermarket parts are available to improve performance and sound. Here are some popular options. Even Shuri first hit. That's insane. BMC air filters that you could just drop into the factory airbox. Holy crap. K&N filter replacements. Oh, that is just cool. Okay. Well, how about exhaust? Akrapovic #1. It seems to prioritize the pricier options, doesn't it? Armitrix, is it Armitrix or Mitrix? I would think it's Armitrix. I don't know. Whatever. I pronounced Akrapovic right. I just limit to my capabilities. Remus, nice. That's what I got. All for a deep, sporty exhaust note. I like it. All right, so if you want to know some popular intake and exhaust options for your M3, just ask ChatGPT. So now let's say that you wanted to know mod combinations, right? So what could you do with that? Let's expound on the exhaust, and I'm gonna give it a scenario here. So here's what we're gonna tell it. So I'm gonna say, I would like to make the exhaust considerably louder. You can modify the downpipes, midpipes, and exhaust with aftermarket parts. What would be the best recommendation for the various manufacturers out there who make parts for the F80 to get a very loud, deep exhaust note? And then I'm gonna tell it that I would prefer to use high flow catted downpipes, and for the midpipes, prefer to use ones that are non-resonated. So Okay, so here's where it gives some repetitive information that's not super specific, even though it does mention a couple of brands, but not like breaking down the individual parts of that brand. And of course, it gives the disclaimer that installing an aftermarket exhaust system may affect emissions, compliance in some areas, and may be louder than local noise ordinances allow. Additionally, some aftermarket exhaust systems may produce a drone at certain RPMs, which may not be desirable for some drivers. If you probe a little deeper, maybe we can get some more specificity. So I'm going to say, in a theoretical model of an M3, F80 M3 with loud exhaust, which specific parts would you choose? Here's a possible combination. High flow catted downpipes. Replacing the stock downpipes with high flow catted downpipes can help improve the exhaust flow and increase power while also creating a deeper, more aggressive exhaust note. Good options for high flow catted downpipes include products from brands, same ones that we've already gotten, Armatrix, AWE Tuning, Kropovich, and others. So we have some options for high flow catted downpipes, some options for non-resonated mid pipes. So again, it's not gonna design you an exhaust system, but it is still a good point to be able to get an idea. Like, let's say that you're not super active in the modding community or whatever, and you're trying to get some ideas on starting points of companies that you can go to look at for some of these parts. I think this is a pretty viable option. I'm gonna ask it one more question about the exhaust stuff. Which high flow catted downpipes would work best with active auto work non-resonated equal length mid pipes? Which I have, and I don't have downpipes. I'm looking for some. I'm probably gonna go with the active auto work ones, but nonetheless, let's just see what ChatGPT has to say. Like, they even mentioned the quality of the steel, the T304 stainless steel. So a couple of options there. Okay, last one. Now, I heard some pretty wild Valvetronic exhausts at Beamer Invasion, so I'm gonna ask it to compare two different setups. So I'm gonna say, which is a better combination? One, active auto work high flow catted downpipes with active auto work equal length non-resonated mid pipes, and a Remus axle back exhaust, which is probably the system that I'm going to have, or active auto work high flow catted downpipes with the Valvetronic exhaust. Both options have unique advantages, so the better combination will ultimately depend on your personal preference and priorities. It always usually gives that caveat. But option one, it's a good choice if you're looking for a deep and aggressive exhaust note, improved power and performance, and relatively affordable price. The Remus axle back exhaust is a quality piece that is made from high quality materials and is designed to be a direct bolt-on upgrade, making installation easy. While option two, good choice if you're looking for more control over your exhaust sound. Well, funny, I'm always looking for control over my exhaust sound. A Valvetronic exhaust allows you to adjust the volume and tone of your exhaust note with the push of a button. Ultimately, both options are high quality and should provide excellent results. It's up to you to decide which factors are most important to you to make your decision accordingly. I'm telling you, man, this is awesome. Okay, seriously, last performance question. Are there any benefits to a single turbo upgrade over upgraded dual turbos? Now, I've rephrased this question, so I really don't know what it's going to say. So several potential benefits to a single turbo upgrade over upgraded dual turbos. So we got reduced lag, increased power potential, easier installation, and increased reliability. So by replacing the complex and failure-prone factory dual turbo setup with a simpler and more reliable single turbo setup, you may be able to improve the overall reliability of your engine. Say what? That being said, there are potential drawbacks or downsides to a single turbo setup, such as increased heat and exhaust gas flow, which can affect engine and turbo durability, and potential difficulty in maintaining proper boost control across a wide RPM range. Okay, so lastly, I had some questions about individual colors, right? So, I wanna know, because my mother-in-law used to have a 92 bright red 325i convertible. It was beautiful, and so it was called bright red back then. I don't know if it still is now, but I'm wondering whether or not bright red is an individual color option for the F80 M3. I believe it's Hell Rot Red now. But no, bright red was not an individual color option for the M3. However, there are a few different shades of red, including Secure Orange and Alston Yellow. That is not even remotely true. Additionally, individual color options were available through the BMW individual program, so on and so forth. All right, bit of a failure there. How about what color tones, I guess I should say which, color tones are in the individual BMW color Brooklyn Gray? Okay, individual Brooklyn Gray is a metallic gray color with slight blue-green tint. The precise color tone and appearance can vary depending on the lighting conditions and the angle from which it is viewed. Very true. Now how about, because relevancy here, describe the color Yasmarina blue and where the name comes from. Yasmarina blue is a bright and vibrant metallic color that was offered as a standard option. True, the name Yasmarina comes from the Yasmarina Circuit, which is a Formula One racetrack located on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. The color Yasmarina blue is inspired by the bright blue hues of the water surrounding the Yasmarina Circuit. Overall, Yasmarina blue is a highly distinctive and eye-catching color option that can give the F80 M3 a striking and unique appearance on the road. Indeed. Let's see whether it knows anything about production numbers. So yes, like I said, some things it doesn't have access to. While we could go online and search and find the exact number of Yasmarina blue M3s made in 2017, even ones with a carbon fiber roof versus ones with a sunroof, because ChatGPT cannot search the internet, it doesn't have access to that information. Although, this is a side that I'm just thinking of, but let me, just out of curiosity, if you had to guess, how many were made? I'd be hesitant to make an estimate without more specific information about the production figures. Respectable. All right, well, let's try to go out on a high note. What is your best cheeseburger recipe? I mean, it's not the most unique recipe ever, but it is pretty thorough and complete along with instructions. I like that as an AI language model, it does not have a personal recipe. I'm just happy that it's not telling us to eat bugs for protein. So there's that. All right, guys, well, that is it. That's just a quick preview of ChatGPT and what it knows about my car. But again, you know, just barely scratches the surface of what this system is capable of, but I think it's pretty impressive, even considering, especially considering the recommendations on performance upgrades. Now, again, the torque specs and the mechanical data, that, I wouldn't even say trust but verify. I would just maybe consult a more reliable source of information when it comes to things like torque specs. But for everything else, I think the system is pretty on point. And, you know, personally, you know, I used to be real into tech back in the days, building PCs and hacking the planet. But these days, I just like tech to work. I don't usually like to be hassled with stuff. And I don't even follow the fields of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So as far as I'm concerned, this might as well be magic in terms of how it works. But yeah, just so much fun to play with. And depending on what you do for a living, you might even be able to use this for your job. So worth keeping that in mind. So, all right, well, before we go, I want to ask ChatGPT one more thing. So since we're making a YouTube video here, let's ask it to write a title and description for the video. Could you write a YouTube video title and description based on this conversation? That is wild. However, we weren't really talking about building the ultimate F80 M3 with performance upgrades and mods, even though that was the majority of the conversation, though that description is impressive. But instead, let's rephrase the question. Everything you need to know about the 2017 BMW F80 M3 Q&A with ChatGPT. Okay, how about a description? I mean, come on. Seriously. That's, oof. Okay, so last thing. Now, I tried asking DALL-E, which is a service that is similar to ChatGPT, but for images. So you ask it to create a certain image and it will use AI to return that image. So I asked it if it would create some, video thumbnail ideas for a conversation with ChatGPT about my F80 M3, but it didn't go so well. Okay, so they're working on it. All right, guys, well, I hope you found this video interesting. Again, I was really looking forward to making this one just because of all the time I've spent with ChatGPT, and I'm just continuously impressed with how this thing handles requests and responses and things that you ask it to do. So if you found this video interesting, informative, whatever, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you know anybody who nerds out on this stuff too, feel free to share it with them. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ask it more questions. So I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.